Welcome back, Cupid's crew, to another episode of Let's Talk Happily Ever After, where Missy and I dive deep into rom-coms, sharing what we love about them, what we would have loved to see differently, and how the movie themselves can mesh into our everyday lives, because we think that there's so much to talk about. And so today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic films and iconic rom-coms, Legally Blonde. So Legally Blonde was actually it came out in 2001, so it's been 25 years. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary. It's a comedy about Elle Woods, played by Reese Witherspoon, a fashionable, optimistic college graduate who surprises everyone by getting into Harvard Law School to win back her ex-boyfriend, Warner. So once at Harvard, Elle realizes she's far more capable than anyone expected. Despite being underestimated because of her appearance and bubbly personality, she works hard, earns the respect of her classmates and professors, and ultimately solves a high-profile murder case using her intelligence and keen observation. And today we're joined by none other than a dear colleague and friend who Missy's going to intro, but before we get into that, wanted to send it over to Missy for the character list because there's such a stacked cast.
You literally took the words out of my mouth, and no one needs to watch this movie now because that synopsis was just perfect. Okay, so we have Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Coolidge, Ali Larder, Luke Wilson, Matthew Davies, and Selma Blair. I mean, crazy stacked cast for the 90s, or I guess 2000s, but insane. So we have a little high school reunion going on here today. You guys all know Paul and I went to high school together, and our guest today went to high school as well with us, and she is a real life lawyer, because obviously we could not talk about Legally Blonde without having the real Elle Woods with us. And so, Morgan, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, thanks, Missy and Paula. Well, let me get the record straight here. I'm definitely not the real Elle Woods because I did not go to Harvard Law School, but I went to Seton Hall. Like Missy said, we went to high school together. I went to Seton Hall Law. I did practice in litigation for about a year, which is what Elle is doing. That kind of practice is litigation. But now I do cybersecurity law, data privacy stuff, more transactional. So I'm really not in the courtroom, but I am a real life attorney. I wouldn't say I'm a real life Elle Woods, but I am a real life attorney for what it's worth.
You're my real life Elle Woods.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My real Elle Woods. So from a lawyer or law student perspective, how realistic was this whole process that Elle went through and like the whole law school experience that she had?
Yeah, well, it seemed like the admissions process. I don't know what the Harvard admission process was. I don't know if you submit the video, that part could be so made up. I don't know. But
yeah,
from her studying for the LSAT, taking the LSAT, and then getting in, that's all seemed pretty accurate. I will say when she was in law school, how they call the Socratic method. I mean, you guys know that from Blair, and how they just like call on you and expect you to be ready with an answer. That's very accurate. The study group aspect of it, I know at one point in the movie, she was ousted out of a study group, and they said that the study group was already set. That's definitely a real thing. But yeah, I mean, it's funny watching it when I was in law school, because I watched it, when I was younger, and then rewatching it. It's funny to see like what holds and what doesn't, at least from my perspective.
I was going to ask Morgan, how do you like Legally Blonde? Is rom-com even a genre that you enjoy watching? And what was the first time, when was the first time you watched it, and how was your take on it?
The first time I watched it, what is it? I don't know what it's rated. So I know I feel like I watched it with my mom when I was young. I must have been maybe 10, maybe younger. I don't know. Like it came out in 2001. I would say I was probably younger than 10 years old when I first saw it, because I was likely watching it with my mom.
I'm so glad you said that, Morgan, because watching it now, I got all the jokes that went over my head when I was 10, and we'll talk about this later, but when I first watched it when I was younger, I was like obsessed with Warner. I was like, he's so dreamy, he's so beautiful, and now I'm like, what a fuck boy. Like,
right,
fuck him.
right. Yeah, exactly. I definitely was in law school when I rewatched it, for sure. I likely watched it again after that. But yeah, like you said, Missy, it's funny because you don't remember certain things when you first watch it, and things go over your head. And yeah, It's funny. I remember when she pulled up to the Halloween party wearing the bunny outfit. I know for a fact when I first watched that movie, that scene went over my head. I was like, "Oh, she's wearing a cute bunny outfit. Like, what's wrong?" But yeah, so it's just funny to see like how your perspective changes over.
Something I want to talk about is so Legally Blonde has a Rotten Tomato score of 72% for the critics score or the tomato meter, and then the audience score for its cast received an 85%, but still an average of 75.5%. So, Morgan, would you agree that Legally Blonde is a movie that was pretty good and received a 75.5% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, I mean, like you said in the intro, it's an iconic movie. And I think it's definitely inspired a lot of younger professionals, like women professionals, and not even in the law, just in general to climb that corporate ladder. My favorite line of the whole movie is "What's hard?" I love that line. I say it to myself all the time when I'm doing something I don't want to do. I'm like, ugh, what, like it's hard. I think it is an iconic movie. The theme of it, the message that it has, and just being authentically you. I like the idea that the movie is about, being yourself and still being successful at what you want to do and what you set your mind to do. And I mean, it's a rom-com, right? Like it's not this deep, like thought-provoking movie. So I understand the lower score maybe on the Rotten Tomatoes not being the full tomato scale. For a rom-com, I think it's, one of the best. It's honestly one of the best movies in this genre to be created. I think that's why we see Elle, the prequel of it, being launched on Prime, because the movie has such a cult following, for lack of a better word, after 25 years, that obviously Amazon thought it was going to be profitable to make a prequel to it.
It's more calm than rom. I know we always talk about that on this podcast, whether we think they're more rom than calm in this. I think there was more calm, but I think the rom in this movie, yes, obviously we see her and Emmett. She is obviously goes to Harvard to try and win back Warner, but I think the main romance in this movie is with yourself and learning how to love yourself and your confidence. And I really loved that message. And I got that more now as an adult, or maybe almost 30-year-old, than I did as younger when I was watching that movie or this movie. I think I was just watching it for like the fun of it. Oh my God, this blonde is going to Harvard. Oh my God, this is crazy. But now it's throughout the whole movie, she is such a girl's girl. She constantly has such great self-worth, confidence. And I guess maybe as a 30-year-old who's kind of struggling a little bit with my self-confidence, I'm so happy that women can watch this and see that it is possible to be, to feel good about yourself. And it kind of just made me want Elle Woods my life all over again. Not go to Harvard, but, it gave me that confidence I need. And Paula, I know we talked about the Rotten Tomatoes score and what goes into it. I think this was very original for the time. There was no movie like it. So I think that's why it got such a higher rating too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we had talked about the house bunny in a separate Easter episode. And I got very similar vibes from watching House Bunny and Legally Blonde. But I think that, like you mentioned, Missy, watching it now versus when I was younger, and Morgan, I think you also alluded to this, I could see that big disparity in the message that it was trying to deliver. And what I think is the icing on the cake is that as the movie was about to end, she literally summarizes the movie in her, is it the graduation speech? So she literally summarizes what the entire movie's about in those couple of minutes. And I love that. And I didn't even take the last graduation speech as seriously the first time I watched it to when I recently watched it. And I love that scene.
I literally wrote the same exact thing in my notes. I wrote the exact last line that says, "You must always have faith in yourself."
Yes. And it wasn't cheesy at all. That last graduation speech was something that you could take even if you don't identify as Elle Woods, you could take in any part of your life, any time.
Because that was the end. Let's rewind and go back to the beginning. Something we always talk about on this on our podcast, Morgan, is the meet cute moment, whether it's realistic, what we would rate with it. So I think for the sake of the movie, the meet cute moment is when she meets Emmett, because obviously we don't know the origin story of how she meets Warner. We just see that she's getting ready for the date. So Paula, Morgan, what do you guys think of the meet cute moment here? I believe it was when she storms out of class and is sitting on the bench.
Yes, yes, that's the first time that we see Emmett's character.
I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, then that's the meet cute moment.
Yeah.
Morgan, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and doesn't he give her advice on the professor that she was upset about? Okay, yeah. I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same.
Yeah, so I just watched it last night, so it's very fresh in my head. He gives her advice on all the professors and is like kind of supporting her, being so genuine. And then Warner's like, "Hey," and she's like, "Bye," and just leaves this beautiful, sweet man on the bench. And I think it is very realistic. I mean, we all went to college. I think that's very realistic to meet someone on campus, you know, sitting, studying, or in a library or something. So I would rate the meet cute moment. Sorry, very realistic.
Yes, and I actually have a personal story on this one. For once, Missy, I have a personal story. You know how she's getting advice from Emmett, and this brought a deja vu moment back for me because there was a guy in college that I thought was cute, but I didn't, have a crush on him or anything, but I thought he was cute and we were kind of friendly. And I remember he was talking about it was the end of the school year and he was moving out, but he didn't know how to move out all of his stuff and he was kind of a procrastinator. So I literally connected him with this student-led group of people who would help students move out or whatever. But then he told me after years, months, whatever later, that the fact that I told him this advice and thought about him to circle back and say, hey, there's this group or whatever to help you, that's what made him start to kind of develop a crush or whatever on me and asked me to a formal because he was in a fraternity. And I didn't know that he liked me or whatever because I had given him that advice. So I'm basically saying it's realistic. And if you give advice to people, you never know. They could think that you're really sweet and it could turn into a meet cute.
The real question is, where is this real life person now, Paula?
Oh my gosh.
We can sidebar about this.
Yeah.
How about you, Morgan? Do you think it was realistic? Have you, especially going to law school, did you meet other people who are, I guess, third years or fourth years who gave you advice like that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's realistic. That conversation in itself is very realistic to ask the 2L or 3L, do you have an outline for this professor? Like, what are your thoughts on this professor? So the conversation was very natural, especially in a law school setting where the professors and their classes or their courses are very set for the most part. Every year, this professor is going to be teaching this course. And especially with the 1L curriculum, not to get too technical, but the professors...
No, get technical. That's why we brought you on. Do it. Use legal jargon in real life.
In law school, it's almost like kindergarten your first year of law school because you have the same teachers and you're with the same group of, students for the entire year. You have different courses, semester 1, semester 2, but the students you're with are the same. So it's very common for someone who is just a year above you to know what that professor is like, to give you advice on the professor, give you an outline, talk about their exam. So that I would rate that very realistic, and not even on the romantic side of it. It's just that's a very realistic interaction in law school.
But I think there are so many other meet cutes in the movie too, because they don't have to be just meet cutes with, your significant other or love interest, but can be meet cutes with Jennifer Coolidge's character. So I think that we are introduced to so many key characters and it all adds on and compounds to the very end where everyone celebrates Elle for her success. And I love that too.
I'm glad you mentioned Paulette because I loved their friendship and watching it grow. And I loved seeing how towards the end, a little bit of Elle was rubbing off on Paulette and she got that confidence that Elle had. And it just goes to show you that she really is such a, I was not in a sorority. I don't know if either of you were in a sorority, but when I think about sororities, I think about sisterhood. And, really, I feel like Elle really does truly embody being a girl's girl and being a sister to anyone who she comes across. And I felt like that. Sorry, my Bruiser is being very to me right now.
He just loves you. But yes, I agree. And that's why, again, I got The House Bunny, which came out in 2008. So I would be surprised if a little bit of The House Bunny wasn't built off of what we had already seen from Legally Blonde and 2001. So while we're speaking of Paulette, though, I did write down something that I don't know if you both kind of ever had your own moments such as this, but you know when Paulette goes back to her ex-husband or demands her dog back, and you know how he is obviously a despicable character, but he says something where Elle comes into the scene and starts to introduce herself, and then the guy's like, well, who's asking? And that made me just kind of pause and say, that is such a guy thing to do. First of all, kind of stand up against a girl and question who they are, who's asking, why do you want to know? And I have such a tendency as a girl to not have quick, witty comeback moments or whatever to say. And this time around, I was like, yes, I think that this movie, if anything, is going to teach women to stand up for themselves and say, if a guy says, who's asking, to be prepared for that kind of question.
Yeah, I think the movie, I think it speaks to the self-confidence of it all. When he asks who's asking, it's up to the person, whether male or female, whoever, to be confident, to be like, I'm fucking asking. Honestly, that's the natural reaction I have in my head, at least. And whether it's personally in my everyday life or at work, like, I don't say those words out loud, but like, that's kind of the inner monologue that goes through my head. Like, you know, if anyone ever said that to me, I would probably giggle because I think that's hilarious. Who's asking? What kind of question is that? I'm asking. It doesn't matter who you are. Like, you're just asking a question. But no, Paula, to your point, to bring this all home so we can edit all that out, I guess. I think the movie does a great job of instilling confidence, and it teaches what Missy was talking about before. You know, really believe in yourself and have that confidence to go through with a tough situation, because Paulette that's a difficult situation to confront your ex who has your dog uncomfortable, potentially unsafe, but you know,
taking the damn dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great line, and it really brings home that theme of self-confidence and believing yourself, which I think the movie does throughout the course of itself.
Yes, and this tees us up perfectly for the question I wanted to ask you, Morgan, which is, have you been in a situation yet where you got to use your legal expertise to shut someone up at a Home Depot or just out there in the middle of the street? Let's say someone's trying to outsmart your friend. Have you been able to use any of that?
I think it's funny because I think my family and friends use it more than I do. They're the first ones to say, like, well, my sister is a lawyer. My sister said that so many times when she was in college. I would get phone calls being like, I'm putting you on speaker because blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, my boyfriend's family has questions, they'll ask me. And, you know, I know enough about each area of the law to be dangerous. Obviously, I don't, you know, practice in family law, but I could offer like a few cents on that. You know what I mean? And just guide someone in the right direction if there was like an actual legal problem. But
I don't know if you remember this, Morgan, but we were out in Morristown one night hanging out, playing pool. Do you remember this?
I do. I know where you're going. I don't remember all the details of the story, though, honestly. This is so funny that you remember this.
I remember this. And I only remember it because Paula asked this question.
Yeah.
We were out and some man got in someone else's face and started throwing punches and being like really aggressive. Like, I have the video from that night, I remember. And I remember Morgan turned to me and she goes, I could totally represent the other guy. Like he has the case. And I don't think at that point you had graduated law school yet, did you? Or were you just like, you just passed the bar? By the way, guys, Morgan passed the bar on the first try. I just want everyone to know that, because I don't even think Hillary Clinton passed the bar on the first try, right?
Yeah, a lot of politicians just didn't. I don't think
and Morgan did. So that's my humble bestie brag about Morgan, is that she passed the bar on the first try. So continue.
I'm always looking out, who has a legal case, who doesn't? If there's a hole in the ground, it would be terrible to trip and fall into that. I mean, again, it's not good, but that's just like where my brain goes, just automatically. I don't usually pull the I'm a lawyer card because literally no one wants to hear that, and it just pisses people off. It really means nothing at the end of the day. But I will say, though, it does give me the confidence, whether that's, you know, superficial or not. I went to law school. I passed the bar. I've litigated in court against pretty intelligent attorneys and was successful. I now represent clients, a broad range of clients. I represent small mom and pop shops, or I'm representing Fortune 500 companies. Granted, I am an associate, so there's a partner above me in those matters, but it just gives you the confidence. It's like, if I can do this and sit on the phone with the CEO and have an intelligent conversation, then I could figure out the lease in my apartment and we can all get along with our day. So it's really a confidence thing. I say all the time, I truly, and I really mean this, again, maybe this isn't a good thing, but I truly think I could do anything aside from rocket science and brain surgery or anything in the medical field, because that's just a no for me. But when it comes to like anything else, I can do it. It also applies physically. Like, I could run a marathon, no problem. I mean, it was a problem, but I did it and I had the confidence to do it. Was it a fantastic time? No, but I did it. Becoming an attorney has given me definitely more confidence to go out and do things more fearlessly, or with like less reservation, I would say.
From hearing what you're saying, Morgan, though, I think this is why Elle Woods, at the very end of the day, is someone who's been celebrated for 25 years. But I haven't watched any of the spinoffs or any of I have to look at how many, other Legally Blonde 2s and 3s and 4s came out, but I'm pretty sure there were a lot that came out.
So I did this research.
Yeah. How many movies?
There is an official Legally Blonde 2. I think it's like Pink, White, and Blue or something it's called, where she actually is in Washington. Then there was a spin-off, or not a spin-off, there was another movie where it was two blondes go to law school. Other than that, then there's the prequel Elle, which I'm only on episode 3, and I gotta tell you, it is really good.
Oh, is it really?
It's so cute. It's such a nostalgic throwback to the 90s and the early 2000s, and you could really tell that they took a lot of consideration in making sure that it made sense for the movie, that this was a prequel, and that there were themes that you see them setting the foundation for what adult Elle looks like. I don't know if did you get to watch it, Morgan, at all, or no? Yeah. No, it was really great, and you could tell that Reese Witherspoon, I mean, not only did she executive produce it, but I think her own production company produced it as well. You could tell she had such a big hand on it and made sure that every detail, like, she really took care of it for the fans, and I really think it was done very well.
Yes. I have heard really good things. I also have to watch it, but I think that when you mentioned Reese, I just want to talk about Reese Witherspoon in this movie and how it was such an iconic role for her, and probably one that really, because she's been acting since she was a child, but this one really, I think, took her off into another avenue and set her up for a lot of the success that she saw after this movie, which she rightfully deserves, because she's just such a wonderful actress that has such good range. But I don't know if I could see any other actress playing her character. I think Reese just was Elle Woods.
Yeah, I would love to know more about the audition process from like the producers, and know how many Reeses they interviewed before they were like, yep, this is the girl, this is our Elle Woods.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that it was a competitive race, but I think at the end of the day, there wasn't anyone who could have done it better than Reese.
I agree, and I think it was a blessing in disguise that she got the role, because now look at what she's done with it. She's really, like you just were talking about, she's producing Elle and like really keeping the character alive in a sense. So I think it totally worked out, and she was just destined for that role.
So I have a little spill the popcorn. I did some research. The girl that plays young Elle, Lexi Mintry, I think her name is, her casting or audition video for the role of Elle was she recreated Elle's Harvard video.
Mm-hmm. I did see that. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I love that. And I'm so glad that she got the role, because she clearly cares enough. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, if you're an actress and you were auditioning for that role of Elle, if you did not recreate the Harvard video, I would automatically just put your audition tape in the no pile. Like, that was just like, how could you not do that? And she did such a great job playing her. And I'm so happy that when you see them next to each other, they literally look like younger version of each other.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, before I learned the actress's name, I thought it was Reese's daughter, because I know she has a daughter about that age. So I go, well, that's cool, her daughter's playing her. I had no idea it was someone different. Yeah. But just goes to tell you, like, they really do look so much alike.
So one of my favorite scenes in this movie, we like to do something called a scene stealer on this podcast. One of my favorite scenes, and it has to do with legal jargon, and a question for you as well. When Elle finally she's on her comeback tour, and she's like studying, she's doing really hard. They're talking about the sperm donor case in the classroom. I don't know if you guys remember this scene. I guess the sperm donor wants to have parental rights to the child that he, I guess, donated sperm to. And Warner is arguing that, it should be like, he does have parental rights because, it's technically the child in question wouldn't be a child without his donation. And then Elle starts by saying, well, technically, has he kept track of every ejaculation or, emission that he's had? I mean, why this sperm? Why this child? And I'm like, yes, Elle, you go, girl. But then she says the most wild thing. And I have to quote it directly. She says, wouldn't all masturbatory emissions where his sperm was not seeking an egg be termed reckless abandonment?
I do remember that, actually, now that you say that line. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
I guess from strictly a lawyer brain, was she on track before she said that crazy freaking line?
I don't remember all the details of the case, but there's this, again, I don't know if this is like too legal, but usually in the sense where there is a sperm donor, that donor is waiving their parental rights. So this really doesn't become an issue. If they didn't waive their rights, then they have an argument. Yeah, I mean, she's clearly making a case against him having parental rights. So I would say she's definitely on track. That's the thing, when you have a client, whether their case is outlandish or not, like, you have to make a case. So that's exactly what she was doing. And yeah, it was great. It was obviously entertaining, but it was awesome.
But that's a perfect example of when I first watched this when I was younger, I didn't catch on to the joke. And
exactly. Yeah.
Now that I'm older, I understand it. I'm like, oh my God, Elle, like, I can't believe you just called ejaculatory or masturbatory emission.
Yeah.
That was great. I love Elle's creativity and her sense of self throughout the whole movie. She is so genuinely herself. I know we talked about this earlier, but we really see that in the end when she wins the case too, by being herself. Do you think, Morgan, as a lawyer, or just in general, like when you're practicing, I know you said you've been in court or you've been reviewing cases and stuff, do you find yourself relying on some of like your own personal like knowledge or like those things that, Elle obviously is clearly a blonde who loves hair and fashion and style, and that was the whole point of the connection at the end. Like, have there been any cases where you're like, oh, I'm an athlete, I remember like reading about this or doing something like this? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. I think it comes more handy when you're trying to build a rapport with your client, because at the end of the day, I am a generally young, in the terms of the law, young woman, and a lot of my clients are the opposite of that. They're older men. So I think you have to hone in on your past experiences. And that's the thing. I don't have as much experience as the partner I work with does. So you have to really hone in on your own personal self and how can you connect with this client, because you want them to be able to trust you when that partner is busy doing something else and you have to deal with this client, for lack of better words. You want them to feel like, okay, she can deal with this issue. I don't need the partner's approval on every single thing. So I think that's when that personal knowledge and past experiences plays in. When it comes to the law, I find that personal experience doesn't really play in too much. It's really just professional experience. What have I done before? Is this the same kind of fact pattern? Things of that nature. But I really think it's great to hone in on, who you are as a person to build that rapport with a client, which is just as important.
That's so well said. Okay, well, ladies, as we wrap up, I want to ask questions. One question is, if you could change anything about the movie, because Missy and I often talk about, well, could something have been done better? What would you have liked to see differently? So that's one question. Or my favorite question, which is, since we're talking about happily ever afters on this show, do we think that Elle and do we think that they would last?
Saying like in 10 years or so. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Do they get divorced and both hire really great divorce lawyers to help them with their divorce?
Oh my gosh, Missy. No?
That's not happily ever after.
I don't think that's what would happen, but let's hear Morgan's answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be negative and say, no, we'll get divorced. I find it interesting that two lawyers could have a great relationship, but because I know if Kyle was a lawyer, we would probably butt heads a lot. But no, I think they're a great couple. I think, the characters are written very well. They're very different in a way, and I think that's what makes them work. So I would say that they're in it for the long haul.
Would you change anything about the movie?
No, like yes and no. No, because it is so iconic and it's clearly, held this following for 25 years. So clearly it's pretty okay. The one thing that just gets me aggravated, and again, this is just me going through the law student process. At the end, when she cracks open the case and she's basically the lead attorney, that would just never happen, and that gets me so upset because she's a first year student. If she was a third year student, then that would have worked. But I understand that it's set in the first year of law school. I just wonder if they could have played around with that a little bit more. But again, it's a rom-com. It's not supposed to be accurate to the T, you know what I mean? So that's my one critique-ish. I mean, there's obviously other legal issues in that whole scene, but that's the main one because, oh my God, she's a first year law student and it's like that would never happen. But we love Elle and it's a fantastic movie. So honestly, I wouldn't change anything. That's just my one little footnote.
Yeah.
I just want to say two things before we finish up with this episode. Two things that I really just want to talk about in this movie. I love how Elle, and I know I keep mentioning this in the beginning, is so true to who she is and her sisterhood. Even when she finds out about Vivian, and I think Paulette asks her in the nail salon, like, is she ugly? Like, what does she have that you don't have? She never fully insults her. She just says, oh, she could use some mascara or maybe some bangs. Like she's such a girl's girl that she doesn't stoop to a different level. And I think that's so amazing, especially in a world where women are constantly pitted against each other in a way that men aren't, or are constantly, told, oh, she's prettier, she's skinnier or something. And it just is so nice that Elle stayed true to who she was. And even throughout the movie too, when that one girl in the study group, it was someone else, and she's like, I would have invited you to a party, like I would have been nice. You must be talking about Vivian, when she's talking about the whole, lesbian discriminatory comment. Like, it's just so nice that Elle throughout is always herself and sticks up for herself, and I think that's super important. And then my second point I really want to make is that Warner Huntington III is clearly the OG fuckboy, like set the bar for all fuckboys. Do you guys agree?
Yeah. I mean, well, first to get back to your point about Elle being like a girl's girl, I never thought about that, how she never fully puts Vivian down. And that's such a good point. And I'm really glad that you brought that up. With respect to Warner, I mean, I don't know, because for me, again, as I'm watching it as I'm older, he's such like a non-factor because you can see Elle just blossoming and just doing her own thing, and like, okay, she's obviously better off without this guy anyway. Honestly, like, thank God for him, because if he didn't dump her, then she would never have went on this journey. But yeah, I mean, he is the F-boy in the sense where, once he saw Elle being successful, he was trying to win her back.
Pooh Bear.
I mean, yeah, I mean, whatever. I was just over his antics the second that he just dumped her, honestly. And then he was shocked that she was at Harvard. Goodbye, Werner. We're done. But yeah, no, I guess he is the ultimate F-boy. I do think that.
I mean, and whenever he compliments her throughout the movie, it's always about her appearance. It's never about her brain until the very end. And like, you're not smart enough, sweetie. Or do you really think you could do that? Or the way that he's so smooth with like the car, like picking her up on the date. And he's like, especially, this is what irked me so much, when she's walking back and he's like, but Pooh Bear, you're going to ruin your shoes. Like, fuck you, Warner.
Right. It's funny. I never picked up on that either, how he always commented on her appearance and not her looks. Again, because maybe in my head he was such like a non-character. Obviously, like what he did snowballed into Elle going to Harvard and all that, but I think you watch it and like, okay, she's not going to end up with this moron. But yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I think you need his character for the movie to work. So
yeah,
she doesn't even insult him too until the very end scene, when she's like, if I'm going to be a partner by the time I'm 30, I need someone who's not, whatever the line is. But even in that sperm donor scene, she's like, while Mr. Huntington has some points, or whatever she says, like, she never fully says Warner is wrong, and she could easily do that. She's still a epitome of class, is what I want to say.
Yeah.
So. Agreed.
Well, thank goodness for not a happily ever after for them. So
yeah.
Thanks, Morgan, so much for coming on.
I had so much fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Cupid's crew, let us know what your favorite lines were, or your favorite scenes from this iconic movie, and if you've seen the new prequel, Elle, and what your thoughts were. Any last thoughts, Paula or Morgan?
Mine is just that I think I have to go watch that prequel now because Missy loves it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to check that out too.
Thanks, Cupid's crew.